have shown interest in understanding the Dhamma. To benefit them, I would explain about Vandana and what I am trying to do, and when the actual Desana would start. So we generally start with Vandana, then we have Ariya Metta Bhavana.
Alert from Google Chrome, red circle.
And then once we have Ariya Metta Bhavana, then that is called as Karmasthana. Once we complete that, again there is salutation to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. And after that the Desana starts. So the Desana you can expect to start, if you are wanting to listen only that portion, in 10 minutes time. So let's, but it would be highly beneficial if you can listen from the beginning. Let's start with the Vandana. The meaning of Vandana as there is a Pada Nirukti, which is etymology. It is Va plus Andha plus Na. That is a path which can remove moral blindness is what Vandana is. Let's start with removing the moral blindness. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. We said this 3 times, one from the mind, once from the speech, and once from the body. This is Kaya, Vacha, Manasa. Ensuring that we are prostrating or we are appreciating Buddha, one who has understood how the bhava or become happens and how that can be eradicated. The samsara is arising and passing away. So one who has understood the entire journey of arising and passing away is Buddha. So one who has totally eradicated the becoming process and he has found it out himself, and that's the reason it's called Samma Sambuddhassa. Now let us continue our journey onto the Arya Maitri Bhavana. Arya Maitri Bhavana is also called as Karmasthana, that is, we set up the karma in such a way that every being finds the true happiness in whatever it is doing at present, and able to, through our vibrations, able to penetrate into the truth, because at some point in time all beings would have been the humans, like mosquitoes, lizard, or whatever we see which are moving and which are having their backs turned to the sun, or they are walking horizontally. They were not upright in their behavior, and that's the reason they had to take this painful birth. So what we are trying to do is to help those beings also to have their chitta or the thoughts vibrating on the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and also help them eradicate the raga, dvesha, moha, which has been the cause for their suffering, just like we are suffering. So let's start. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of birth, freed from the fire of decay, freed from the fire of illness, freed from the fire of death, freed from the fire of sorrow, freed from the fire of lamentation, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of suffering, freed from the fire of discontentment, freed from the fire of exhaustion, freed from the fire of not getting what one likes, freed from the fire of clinging to the five aggregates, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the suffering of samsara, freed from the disease of samsara, freed from the fear of samsara, freed from the fire of samsara, freed from the burning of samsara, freed from the sorrow of samsara, freed from the lust of samsara, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. The sensual worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the sensual worlds. The form worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the form worlds. The formless worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be free from the formless world. All worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be free from all worlds. Nibbana is the only salvation. May all beings attain Nibbana. Letting go is the only salvation. May I and all beings let go. Detachment is the only salvation. May I and all beings be detached. Being freed is the only salvation. May I and all beings be freed. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the bondage of lust, freed from the bondage of aversion, freed from the bondage of delusion, freed from the bondage of Mara, healed with the eternal bliss of Nibbana, healed with the eternal bliss of Nibbana, healed with the eternal bliss of Nibbana. For all those people who wanted to know what this Ariya Metta Bhavana or Karmasthana is to offer this to all beings to have calm and define the eternal peace sooner or later. Now one question had come to me: how does being know the language? So the answer here is that we in the sense the beings vibrate at a particular frequency, and this vibration is called kampana in Pali or in Sanskrit, and that one which we as humans or as devas or brahmas or Tirisan or Niraya or whichever world realm the beings have been vibrate, and that is how we are able to transmit. Just like to have this sound, what is being heard right now, you require space. Without space there is no sound. So with the space there is vibration. So as I am speaking, there is which is moving around, and depending upon the depth of my voice or how my vocal cords are working and how my mind is working, considering these two factors, the information is sent to the universe. So the universe is vibrating and so is my voice. So there is no I. I'm just passing the message of Buddha to all the beings through Ariya Metta Bhavana. So let us now proceed further with salutation to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyam buddham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Samanta Chakavalesu Atra Gacchantu Devata Saddhammam Munirajasa Sunantu Saggamoggadam Dhamma Savanakalo Ayam Bhadanta Dhamma Savanakalo Ayam Bhadanta Dhamma Savanakalo Ayam Bhadanta. Thank you very much for listening and also being part of this. Now let us proceed to continue our journey onto Adeenava Sanna. In the last week we had covered till the factor of gandho, which is nothing but boils on the skin. So let's start further. The next one, the next disease, which is unseen but can become a great issue, especially when the temperature varies. It's called kilaso. In English, it's called eczema or dermatitis. There are a lot of dermatitis diseases which happens on the skin. The coloring might go, or there can be scaly skin. This happens due to variations of the external environment with the variation of the internal environment. So it is called as utu. Utu means the season. In Sanskrit it is rutu, in Pali it is utu. So when we say seasonal, it means that there are changes which happens in the atmospheric pressure or the temperature versus the temperature what is currently there in the body. So when there are these changes, so then there are these bacteria which populate on the skin. For them this is the food or the fungus, and that can create a situation called as dermatitis. Then we'll come to so-so. So-so is a type of pulmonary tuberculosis. This is also called as consumption disease. This was first found out in 1912. And it used to appear before as well, 1700, 1600, but then the vaccination and what needs to be done started in 1912. So it's a disease which has been there for centuries, or in fact thousands of years. This is caused basically because of drying up of saliva. Suddenly, due to a lot of variations with the atmosphere again, there are certain viruses which enter through one or the other kind of either through mouth or through ear or through nose, and create a condition where the saliva keeps on drying up itself, and then there are this virus which feast on the inner body, and it starts consuming. And this TB virus keeps on consuming the body and not making aware that it is consuming. And that's the reason it is called as consumption disease. Then let us understand about another disease which can happen to anyone, especially in the tropical countries it is more predominant. It is apamaro or epilepsy. It's also called as fits. So a lot of people who get into a jerk mode, the body literally goes for a jerk, and then due to the nervous breakdown, which can be caused due to various factors, including how the nervous strength is, and the person basically falls, or he might get fits or fissures, which will affect the person in the way he is trying to coordinate his body. Because from there you can really see that the human being does not have any control on the body, but we are so much in love with our body, we think that we are in command. But when you see any one of the diseases which I have covered last week and this week as well, it is so nice. 2600 years ago, Buddha was able to find out these diseases without any requirement of microscope or any instrument at all. Through his inner vision, he was able to see these diseases and causes for as well. Most of these causes are mental, which shows up on our physical stuff. It's all karmically driven or karma. And the diseases which are appearing right now is vipaka, or the fruits of those actions. So when we see this epilepsy especially, the person would be talking and suddenly he gets into fits, or he will have the fissures, which means he will collapse, he or she will collapse, and nobody knows why it happens. But the person will be struggling a lot. His body is struggling, and then after some time it becomes all right. In some countries they give a iron rod or something to hold so that the fits stops. Sometimes it stops. Now, if you see, the person does not wish to get any one of these diseases, but then he has this disease and nobody knows that anybody can get fits. And then when it happens, there is no control. Then we'll come to next one called daddu. Daddu is a cutaneous eruptions, that is on the skin there will be red circles which happens as an eruptions due to presence of ringworm. Again, how this happens nobody knows, but there are ointments which can cure ringworm. So what we need to see in all of these Adeenava Sanna is not why it happens, it is that we need to know it can happen. That means at any point in time anybody can get sickness, and that is the usual way of how the jati, that is the birth, jara is the sickness, is a decomposition from the current state, that is aging, and then vyadhi, it is what we are talking about, is part of adeenava, that is there is diminishing from the state and change. Due to these changes there are various diseases, that is dis and ease, that is the person is at ease, is no longer at ease, and he is or she is in pain, unless that disease is conquered or the condition is changed so that the person does not suffer. So what we are doing is to change the conditions. So now if we take the next of it. It's called as Kandu. Again, it is skin rashes, itch due to various skin factors, and depends on individual to individual and the temperature or the atmospheric temperature, and it's more to do with environment. So if somebody is staying in a polluted environment, he will have this itch. So he or she will be scratching a part of the body all the time, and it can happen any part of the body and anywhere. So it can be on the private areas, or it can be the knee area, or the underarms, or behind the back. It can occur anywhere depending upon the sweat and the heat plus the atmospheric temperature, and that can cause these eruptions to occur. And then it is itching all the time. Next one is called Kachu, is a scab. Again, this is a skin eruption. So if you really see, the pattern here is that we love our skin so much. We take care of skin, we take a bath, we put the smelling perfumes, and we would like to ensure, especially women would like to ensure that the skin looks soft and silky. But if you really see any one of these happening, what will be the state of that human being when he sees that there is itch, there is a scab, which can cause wounds? Are we at that time, aren't we at pain? And nobody can say for one person it will happen, another person it doesn't happen. Anybody can get this. So what we need to understand here is that the love what we have possessed for the skin, which can have so much of a problem, the question comes, is it really worth it to look at it? If you really look at it, is it really worth it to have so much of attachment toward the skin? So skin is the longest organ in the human body, but it can have any kind of these complications. So scab or sore is caused due to a lot of eruptions of damage of the protective tissues, and there are various factors why this scab happens. Then we come to Raksa, which is wounds and boils caused due to chickenpox. So this is another one which is caused by immune system itself, and it will, every person would have gone through the chickenpox, and there is this vaccination for chickenpox. Generally people say it is good to get it so that the immune will improve. So there are a lot of theories of that, and there are theories which says that it is better to give a dose of vaccination so that it doesn't come. So that means we can change certain conditions and ensure that the disease does not appear. So that is possible. So that means we need to keep on giving conditions which will not give rise to any kind of diseases, but we cannot promise that it's going to not come at all. Then we take the next one is Vitachika. This is scabies caused due to mites and dust and rashes over skin, and which result in a burning sensation. This is another interesting topic, is mites. The dust which gets collected creates a certain kind of germs or small organisms which reside in these and get attached to the skin, and they start eating the skin, and in fact they stay in the skin. So for them the life is our skin. If you really would like to see what exists on the surface of our skin, there are a lot of videos on YouTube. You can just search for insects on our skin. You will be surprised to see various insects which thrive and they live till we die. And for them, the home is our skin. It doesn't do anything to a human being, but it will keep on eating the dry skin. And when they eat the dry skin, there are, due to presence of mites, which is also called as mites. So mites is a small organism which is feeding on the dust, and the skin dust is very, very tasty for them because it is coming from the plant source. So what we are saying that is my skin is nothing but combination of chemicals which is coming from various plants, and if somebody is eating animal flesh, and that is also part of that, which is again the animal would have eaten the plant. So basically the food which is coming from the mud. So that same food is required for these microorganisms or these organisms as well. So when there is a presence of these organisms, and then they create a different kind of sensations which can irritate the skin. So it depends on the sensitivity of the person towards all of these, and then when complications occur, then the rashes across the skin will get created. So it's a body's mechanism to fight against the intrusion. But as far as the person is concerned, he or she has to undergo the pain, undergo the burning sensation, because he cannot scratch. The moment he scratches, it turns into big wounds. But if he doesn't scratch, it keeps on biting. So, and it's very painful. The next one is lohitam pittam. It's called hemorrhage. So we can have brain hemorrhage, we can have different kind of hemorrhages which can happen due to various underlying factors. Basically, the pressing of the nerves will cause a sensation, and that ultimately cuts the blood vessels, and the blood will start flowing out from the blood vessel. And once that happens, the person does not have any more that sensation of being conscious, and becomes unconscious, or might go into coma. This can happen due to high blood pressure, and this is because of the weakening of the blood vessels or the walls, and this majorly happens in the brain area because of various induced factors like stress, and then the tension what the person is taking in, and then the anger and jealousy. So that means anything which irritates the mental state would have an more effect on the physical state, because they are interlinked. And when being angry, the person blood burns, literally it boils. So that's the reason we use this word, my blood is boiling. And when that blood is boiling, it can, due to the pressure and increase in the size of the blood vessel, because the blood starts flowing everywhere and it is heated up, then it bursts open. And when it bursts open, it is very difficult to stop it, and it clots, because as soon as the blood starts coming out, it starts to clot, so that it can prevent further damage to that organ. And unfortunately, due to that clot, the person goes into a state of shock, and that might take him to a coma, or he has to be rushed to the hospital and operated upon to remove the clot. Otherwise, he will die. He or she will die. Next, we look at Madhumeho. It is nothing but diabetes. Madhu is sweet. So disease of sweet. So if you see again, the cause of the sugar increase is not the actual sugar, but is the stress which causes that the insulin not being produced at the quantity what is expected. It also depends on the food stress factors as well. That is, we keep on munching something or the other without knowing what we are really munching. And some people have an habit of eating whatever they get. And all of this, and most of it, due to the greediness of the people who are preparing this food, especially the restaurants, they're serving this dish not to make us happy. They're serving this because they make their living out of our hunger. So none of these restaurants are giving us food because they are compassionate in giving us the food. They are doing that because they can make profit. So you see how a human being starts losing the nibbana or goes far away from achieving the state of peace, and he becomes part of pieces. So because of these eating, which is actually a problem, where the person becomes obese due to indulgence of various liquids and various food items and how that chemicals work. So the body is not able to break down the food particles further, and then it becomes insulin resistant. So the pancreas now cannot create more insulin to cut those sucrose or the sugar levels. So after a while, the natural system of creating a system where the body is able to say that it is feeling tired and you need to add more of the food so that it can create that equilibrium of the sugar goes away. So the sugar start fluctuating in the person, which is called as diabetes. That disease is caused due to the mental stress plus the lifestyle, that is unhygienic way of eating. Because when we eat, we need to be highly grateful to people who are serving to us, because food is a chikitsa. Chikitsa means it is the what I can say, it is not something which we can indulge. It is something which is there for our protection. So becoming greedy in eating makes body react violently, because one thing we forget is that all the cells in our body are independent entities. The moment I say I am so and so, it is millions of cells which are coming in a colony. And if something happens in the colony where there is disharmony or there is no collaboration, and if cells becomes very greedy, because that is how the mind is pressurizing these cells to behave, then it creates a different kind of situation. And that is what is shown when a person gets into diabetic conditions because of the indulgence in the food. So the meaning of chikitsa is treatment. So the food is a treatment, it is not for indulgence. So the more we indulge into food, the more we are going to suffer. Then we come to the next one called amsa. In English it is called as hemorrhoids or swollen and inflamed veins, especially in the rectum and anus, also piles. So due to again overindulgence of food, and that too spicy food, and the constricting of the anus region, generally people develop piles, and it is painful, and Sometimes it starts bleeding. That means the blood vessels around that region will rupture, and then it creates even more painful sensation to the person. Next one is Pilaka. They will be surprised to know that 2600 years ago this was found to be cancer due to internal damage of cells. So how does this damage of cells happen? Like I was informing you, this millions of cells, which is a colony, if you were to scan our body, you will find there are a lot of tumors. And nobody knows why these tumors are developed in the body. And any healthy human being has tumors. But sometimes what happens, due to our overindulgence, due to anger, due to jealousy, due to various conditions which we are pressing our mind to be, and that causes irritation of the cells, which then gets damaged. And that's the region of where we have these tumors. So the tumors are generally not reactive, but then sometimes it becomes reactive. They start fighting with the other cells, and the body itself will start fighting with its own immune system, thus cutting the immune system. So the cells, when they start fighting, these colonies are against another colony. It is just like two people fighting. So one of them have to die, and that is exactly what happens. So there are various cells which commit suicide, and due to that reasons these cells get regenerated and they come alive and they start eating up the other cells, and that is termed as cancer. So basically cancer was caused mostly from the mind, and that is a karma vipaka of the person who had brought this different kind of attitude in his previous lives or to his families. That is the hereditary or the genetic structure which the person is portraying through his family background. So some people get worked up very fast, some people have anxiety, some people have depression tendencies, some people get not only angry, they will throw anything they have in their hand. So when these things happens, if the person does not have this karma vipaka or the fruit of the previous karma or the actions, then he is developing the tendency of having cancer, so which can manifest in this life or the next life. So the best way to lead life is not to get into any one of these, just to be compassionate, just be showing loving kindness to everything in this world what we get, so that we don't know what we have carried forward. So in that way, if we are healthy right now and don't have any diseases, that means we need to thank our previous deeds which did not bring any kind of these negative tendencies. But that doesn't mean that they don't manifest. But now we have a choice, so we can become much calmer, much peaceful internally, so that these colonies of cells don't start fighting, and that if they start fighting, the person is gone. There is no cure for that. Next we will come to the next one is Bhagandala, which is ulcers. This is again a miniature of what I was talking to you about irritation. So when we irritate through food, when we irritate through thoughts, or we irritate through actions, then that same very food becomes so hot inside the stomach that it creates boils. So what boils comes outside the skin is now inside. So it's called as ulcers. Next, Pitta Samuttana Abada. This is diseases caused by over acidic reaction of bile and creating hyperacidity, which we sometimes get into because of the food. Again, chemicals and food and water and the hydrochloric acid which gets generated to digest. So sometimes we lose enzymes. These enzymes are lost mainly due to stress. So if we are in a stressful condition and we are eating food, or we are thinking something and eating food, or we are eating it very fast, then we get this Pitta Samuttana. Next one is Semma Samuttana Abada. This is a disease caused by phlegm getting hard or watery and infected due to germs or viruses or other factor like heat and cold. So this is another common diseases which we all get, and we call it as flu, or we call it as cold. Next one is Vata Samuttana Abada. These are the diseases caused by air blocking within the joints and body bloating either due to food or temperature, other factors which causes this Vata. Vata is nothing but the air, so it gets caught up. So the person, when faced with this problem, will have joint pains. The nerves can expand and then it has a catch because there is a space constraint between the bones, so the nerve gets entangled within that. Unless this Vata is removed, that person will be in pain. Even though it is harmless, but the pain the person has to take. So there is no cure except for taking some medicine which can reduce the Vata. So we have Vata, Pitta and Kapha. Kapha is the phlegm. So these three can cause havoc in a person depending upon what he or she is eating, what he or she is breathing, and how the conditions are as part of the temperature and the pressure with which, or the place where he or she is residing. If somebody were to eat at 14,000, 15,000 feet, the digestion level goes down because there is no oxygen anymore. So the body now fights for oxygen. After the food is taken, since there is no oxygen, the necessary enzymes does not break down the food, and also the hydrochloric acid does not get generated. So since oxygen is very low, about 10,000 feet to let us say 16, 17,000 feet, the person feels like sleeping because of low oxygen. So when a person sleeps, the food, undigested food, does not go anywhere. So it turns into gas. So the person feels filled up and also has acidic tendencies because now there is acid not generated much, but the food has got putrefied or it has got fermented. So unless the whole food comes out, the person becomes real sick. So this Vata, Pitta, Kapha, or the phlegm, changes based upon the altitude and also changes due to attitude of the individual. So even if it has a sea level where you have a lot of oxygen, but also depends on how hot it is and how hot he is making himself. So generally tropical countries, people eat a lot of spicy food. There is a advantage of doing it, of eating spicy food, especially towards coastal areas, because that aids them in sweating a lot and that gets digested. So the heat is created. So in colder environment, eating a lot of spicy food will not help. In fact, they should eat bland food. So some of the food habits across the globe have worked out based upon the temperature or the atmosphere at which they are staying. So atmospheric pressure makes a lot of difference for the human body in terms of Vata related or pitta related or the kapha related or simha related diseases. Next we take sannipatika abhada. That is, this is disease caused by multitude of changes. So it's not just one of them, it is multitude of vata, pitta, kapha in a combination. So a person can have extreme bile juice getting generated at the same time combined with the gas or the vata, and then can increase the water dryness or too much of water being generated in the body, and that gets infected and causes headaches, migraine, and then common cold, flu and all that. So all these three factors combined together will cut the appetite of the person. So if you have seen, when the fever comes due to any one of these, the person loses the appetite, and also the person loses the taste. So there is no sense of taste anymore. So everything, whatever the person is eating, looks bland. So the person doesn't have any control over changing anything over there. So that is the reason, using Adeenava Sanna, we can look at Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta, Subha. Here the person does not, no person wishes to have any diseases be the smallest amount to the biggest, because that makes him lose the ease. It happens. So that means my wish has got nothing to do with the temperature, the pressure, the food, the way it has been given to me, the water, the air, or the place I am staying. So all of these factors contribute in what I call as a healthy being. It's not my wish, it is consisting all of these conditions and factor. If all of these conditions matches, then when I am eating the food, it gets digested. If one of it is removed, then the conditions does not satisfy the food to get digested. So most of our diseases externally are skin related, internally are related to digestion. So if we were to improve our digestive capacity, then we are healthy. If we are not having that digestion capacity due to various factors, most of it is mental and some of it is physical and environmental. So when we have this problem, then we are always at disease, and the worst disease we can have is on the digestion, which can cause constipation, and because of heat generated, it increases the amount of vata, that is the air, and then the pitta, which is the bile juice. So especially if we were to drink tea and coffee in more quantity, we can really feel that pitta arising as a sour taste in our tongue. If it comes to that level, then that's called as hyperacidity. So we require antacid or some medicine to get rid of excess of that bile juice. Then we come to Utuparinamaja Abhada. This is disease caused due to the changes of environment or natural element. There are four natural elements: Pathavi Dhatu, Apo Dhatu, Tejo Dhatu, Vayo Dhatu. Let me explain to you in English. Pathavi Dhatu is the earth element. So earth element consisting of 6 factors, which is smoothness, hardness, roughness, and then you have heaviness, lightness, and softness. So these are the 6 different varieties of Pathavi or the earth element. One of these gets changed. So when one of these gets changed in the food or in the atmosphere or the environment, it causes variations in our body, and because of that we get into diseases of Utu, which is the environment. So as soon as the person is removed from that environment, he or she becomes happy, or he or she becomes all right. One example I could give is that people generally go to higher altitudes either for trekking or on tour. So they are from, let us say they are from the sea level, their blood vessels are smaller and they don't require so much of oxygen because there is abundance of oxygen at sea level. When a person goes about 10,000 feet, and that too in a very quick succession, then when the person lands at that place, he or she would not be able to tolerate that lack of oxygen. So the lungs starts filling up with water. So it's called as pulmonary edema. Or the liquid starts or the water starts filling up in the brain. So it is high altitude pulmonary edema, or HACE is high altitude cerebral edema. So what it happens is that because of the change in the environment from a lower altitude to higher altitude, the person faces different kind of problems. All the diseases which were not there comes up because at that altitude those diseases are predominant. But once the person is brought to a lower altitude, he or she becomes all right and the disease automatically goes away. So that is in one example for Utuparinamaja Abada. Then next one is Visampariharaja Abada. This is the disease caused due to uneven or disharmonious taking care of the body. Sometimes we don't take care of the body in a proper way. We take it for granted that we are able to manage, and due to that there can be complications and we get diseases due to the unhealthy way of taking care of the body. Most of us in the working life, we sometimes don't take breakfast, or we take the dinner late, or we skip either one of them, or we eat something, or we drink Coke or any one of these aerated drinks. And all of these are nothing but making the body starve for its survival. So due to that reason, we can get many diseases which are due to disharmony. Living disharmoniously is one of the biggest diseases right now, which is happening in all developed and developing countries, where the aspect is to earn for living in whatever fashion we could. So we are taking more stress and strain than what the body can itself take, and we have to then skip various things including exercises to get the money or power or position or whatever we are trying to look at. And these are some of the factors responsible for creating these diseases, which are called as life cycle disorders or life cycle disorders. So if the life style is improved, then the person does not get these kind of diseases at all. Next we'll take Upakamika Abada. These are diseases caused from various attacks of body, both in nature and outside nature, like insects, birds, animal, humans, etc. The next one is Kamma Vipakaja Abada. Now this is an interesting topic. Here the diseases are not man-made, they are made by nature, depending upon what we have done as an action previously. It can be in this life or just a minute ago or some years ago. If you see, if somebody takes into some of the bad habits and he was doing it and he has quit that, but then that effect lasts for some time, and even though the person has no longer doing that, let us say a person is taking drugs. Now for whatever reason he took drugs, but that has caused a damage to his body. But then now he has quit. Due to his quitting, those cells are changed now, and then the new cell don't have those signature. Every cell has a signature of the previous cell, so it just copies by itself. So the interesting point is that from a single cell, it just copies and copies and copies, and this is what we are at this point in time. So when the person has stopped taking drugs, the assumption is that those cells are now changed, but in some cases the copy exists with the same molecules as it were in the previous. So that means it is copying along with the damage. So when that happens, then the diseases cultivate, because now these new cells have the same signature as that of the damaged ones. So as the more and more cells gets into the damaged ones, the diseases which are expected out of taking drugs or smoking or any other kind of these habit patterns taken up due to the attachment or the conditioning what the person had at that point in time, then these diseases manifest after long number of years, and that is karma, due to the karma, that is the actions what the person has taken. So there is a karma vipaka, or the fruit of that action. So if somebody is addicted to eating unhygienic food or street food, especially like if some people have a habit of eating, let us say various pizzas and or any kind of ready to eat food which are packaged and it's seemingly hygienic, but it has a lot of chemicals added to make it look fresh. So then what really happens here is that the person is changing the chemical pattern in his body, and those changes the chemical composition of the cells. So when the cells gets copied with those different chemical properties, then the original cell is destroyed and the new cell now has the signature of the new chemical. So that is how the person starts the addiction, because now there is a chemical in the human brain called dopamine, and that creates the urge for the person to take it. So any addictions, be it eating, be it sleeping, be it all kind of addictions what we get, including exercising beyond a limit, is due to the dopamine factor that is called as feel good factor. So we are in search of feel good, and in this feel good, eating is the major one what the person himself or herself with. So when the person is doing that rigorously or regularly, that habit pattern changes the chemicals in the cells, and due to those changes, marked changes, the person gets a different kind of diseases which was never there. So it manifested because of the karma what the person is doing. So those fruit of actions come haunting to that person. Next is Setam. Setam is disease of the cold. Then Ushnam, Unham is a disease of the heat. So because of cold and heat, internal cold or internal heat versus the external cold and external heat. So when there are variations in the body and variations in the environment, it creates the diseases of that kind. Because then due to this combination, the germs or the virus can multiply, and especially the bacteria can easily multiply when there is a lot of heat. So that's the time we get sneezing, and due to that sneezing, the sneezing is nothing but the body is trying to eliminate those bacteria or virus, but in turn we take more of it, and then it creates a congestion. Next is Jigacha. This is diseases caused by hunger. There are various diseases which come due to hunger. This is called as deprivation diseases, which means say that when the person is hungry for a long period of time, anything he eats, the body starts storing it, thinking that the person will be in hunger all the time. So this is another disease which is caused due to hunger. Then pipasa is diseases caused due to extreme thirst. There are a lot of diseases which come due to deprivation of water. Next is ucharo. These are the diseases caused due to stools. And the last one is pasavu, is diseases caused in the urine. So the yellowness of the urine, and then how the cells, how many cells are coming out of the urine, and if they were to do the test, and it's called as pus cells. So if there are many pus cells which are more than what the required quantity is, then the urinary tract has an infection. So the person gets burning sensation in this whenever he or she would like to relieve himself of urine. The same thing can happen when the person goes to the toilet for stools or the feces. So there again, different kind of cells, all the dead cells are actually eliminated along with the food. And depending upon the texture of the stools, they can examine and say what kind of diseases has happened in that area, so in the large intestine and small intestine. So these are 49 different kind of diseases which can happen to a human being all the time. If none of it is there at this point in time with any one of us, we can only wish that none of this come to us at any point. That's the only thing we can do. And we can thank our good karma that we are not having to undergo pain of any one of these diseases. Even the smallest of the diseases can cause lot of problems for the person as well as the family member next to that person. And one thing we need to understand is that none of us have got any control over it to say that I will not get it. So it is not good on our part to wish bad luck or bad health to any other person, because then we are wishing bad to ourselves. So that is the message in this Adeenava Sanna. So with that we have concluded the session on the Adeenava Sanna, and I will take the remaining of the Girimananda Sutta next week. If you have any questions, and I will be ready to answer them. Tervan Sarna Santa.
Yes, first of all, once again, I thank you very much for doing a wonderful desana today, having a great and very timely examples. And I want to know that if somebody has a disease, actually, he has been going to doctors, and several times he had undergone, for example, surgeries or something like that, and doing many testings and getting lots of reports. Finally, doctor says that the doctor say that you don't have any diseases, something like that. So when we go to another, he also says that no disease. So, but he is having a disease. Actually, he is experiencing a pain or agitating something inside in the body, and he is getting something. Actually, he can't live properly. That he has a problem. So finally, ultimately we can have a decision that he is having a karma vipaka, something karmic disease is there. So we'll ask, if somebody has a such kind of disease, so how can we get rid of it, and how Buddha Dhamma helps to get rid of that disease?
Lasanta, thank you very much for this question. You have asked the most best question so far anybody could have asked. So I really very much grateful to you for asking this question. So yes, you are right that, see, 99% of the diseases get manifested on the body. The body is nothing but a combination of different kaya, and these kaya, there are, if we were to look at it, there are 18 in numbers. That is 6 of it as the internal organs, that is eye, ear, nose, tongue, taste, all of that, including the mind and the Dhamma. So when we look at the Karajakaya, which is nothing but the physical body, it has with it the Utu, which is there when the Kamma and the Chit came together. So if we look at the Jati Sanjati process, this is where the Sanjati is. So the body blueprint is nothing but what this person has carried from his previous karma. Plus, when he is born and then he is having these diseases, these are called as psychosomatic diseases. These diseases does not really show up on any of the equipments of the doctor. And a doctor might find him very, very fine, at least from the test. So let us say a person has a blood pressure, and then when he goes to the doctor, it shows not much variation. So the doctor says that he is perfectly fine. But he has variations up and down, or he has stress, or he has anxiety, he has disorders in terms of thinking. And because of that stress, sometimes the equipments what generally the physicians have don't show up. So the only way a person can get rid of all of these is starting with the reciting of Buddha Vandana, or the what I can say, the various chanting what the person can do, followed by analyzing the anicca nature into everything. So that will calm the mind. The moment the mind is put to a limited amount of calmness, that he or she has no control over it, is anatta, then these diseases which have manifested due to psychosomatic disorders will disappear. So one of the psychosomatic disorder is depression. There is no what I can say, there is no cure for the depression. They give some medicines that to suppress the nerves or the neurons in the brain, but this is a psychosomatic diseases or disorder, like somebody has lost a loved one, or somebody has got divorced, or the job what the person was searching he or she could not find. These will manifest as a disease internally in him, but externally if we were to test it, there's no what I can say, there is nothing a person can be found that he has a disease. So for that, the best solution is to have the anicca, anatta and the dukkha nature into everything, and the person automatically comes out of this psychosomatic disorder. Did I answer?
Yeah. So if I when I was at the monastery, then one of the desana that the Thero explained that some kind of diseases, it because of the in the sansaric process we had done some kind of upavada, something we had done something for Supreme Buddhas, Pacheka Buddha, Arahata Buddha, some other Supreme people. All those things had now come, these karmic energy we had released in the past had now come back to us, and it hit us as diseases or something like that. So then us that the Theros said that the best solution that we can have is we have to ask forgiven, ask our and so by doing lots of merits, and by doing some lots of merits, and for example we can give some medicine to some patients, and we can help some adult people or the beggars or something, then we can transfer merit to all the beings. So then actually paying back the loans, and then we don't have that disease. So that is the way that the Theoro explain how can we get rid of such kind of karmic diseases. So what is your point of view for that?
That is correct, Lasanta. That is the see, we would have done upavada. So the first and foremost is to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Pirit chanting is one of the way to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Right, and then in that Pirit chanting, if I am deeply involved and I am saying it and I am feeling the vibration, then those beings which are pained due to my attitude in the past, okay, will forgive.
Yeah.
So that can be a Buddha or anyone. So we might have insulted without knowing or with knowing or whatever it is, and those create diseases. So the aspect here is that's called as vyadi. That is, we feel uncomfortable. So this uncomfortable feeling is the bodily sensation to say that something is not okay. So you are right that it is better to ask for forgiveness. It is better to give medicines, because sometimes we might not have given medicines to certain beings when we could have done that, and due to that reason we don't get medicine ourselves. So we have to suffer. So by donating, by dana, sila, bhavana, these are the three things what the person can do to get rid of